Happy Easter and welcome to Garden City Church, a place where you can belong before you believe. If you'd like to support the channel here, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can like and subscribe. You can share this with a friend you think would enjoy it, and you can also support us financially.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, right? There's the smell of meat, which is amazing. It kind of makes me sleepy, so just try not to fall asleep during my sermon. But it's so good. It's so good seeing all of you. It's amazing too, because I'm seeing like relatives that aren't always here sitting next to you, and they're like sitting the exact same way, or like there's like family things going on in here. They're amazing. Yeah, but no angry faces. That's good. I was so excited about Father's Day, and we've got meat. It's like 40 something pounds of brisket. Make sure you get some. Bring some home. We got tons of food. My dad asked for his Father's Day gift if he could have my kids with them at their house this weekend, and we relented. My son found out that we were having brisket, and he loves meat and meat making, and he loves everything meat. And I guess he started crying when he found out. He was just so sad, but it was okay because we told him we'd save him some. So don't eat all the brisket. Leave a little bit for Wes. It's gonna be good. I was thinking about my dad though on Father's Day, and one of the things my dad would do, I think it was like 8, he would take me golfing with him, and he started teaching me by just every once in a while he'd say, "Hey, why don't you hit a ball?" He's left-handed, so he'd bring an extra right-handed club for me, and he'd always say, "You got to start with your 8-iron. It's the easiest to learn to hit. Then you move to the 7." But he knew, like, what do you want to hit with when you're 8 years old? You want to hit with the driver, you want to get that big bad boy out and just whack that thing. So he let me hit it with the driver. And I remember being like 13 or 14, and I was starting to play the whole round with him. And I was starting to hit almost as far as like the, normal adult male, not quite as far, but almost. And one time my dad's like, "All right, you're up." And I was like, "No, Dad, there's some golfers up there. I don't want to push them. I don't want to hit somebody." He's like, "I'll give you $10 if you hit one of them." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll give you $10, but then you got to run." And he just handed that on to me, and now I'm teaching my kids how to golf, and it's just like a fun family thing. And the thing it made me think about is just my dad loves to teach. If you know my dad at all, he loves to teach people. He loves to encourage people, and he loves it when other people succeed. And I just think that picture, like, that's something he gave me, and I want to live into that. I want that to be a legacy for me with my kids and with my life. But I think that's a cool thing. Like, if you're a dad or dad figure, you might even not realize it. You might have nephews or folks that you don't even know that you're a dad figure to. But man, how you live and how you treat people really matters. And so I just want to encourage you with that, because I know not everybody's had great fathers or father figures, but we can live into that story if we choose. Today I want to talk about vision. There's this Old Testament verse that gets at this idea that says where there is no vision, the people struggle, the people wander. And for us, like the vision that we're trying to go after together is just so important. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that. Like, what's the vision here? What do we want to see happen together? What do we want to embody together? And then I want to just share some of the ways we're seeing that happen and celebrate it. And then I wanted to give you an invitation and a challenge. Does that sound good? All right. I'll try not to take too much time, because I know there's probably Father's Day festivities or just sunny weather festivities in the Northwest going on after church. But here we go. If you look at the scriptures, theologians, biblical scholars, narrative theologians will say there's something called like a meta narrative. There's a bigger story happening when we start to look at the contours. If we move out from the granular, we go like 30,000 feet, there's a big story. And for us, we kind of put this story into 3 chapters, 3 parts. And here it is. The 3 parts of the story that we really try to focus on that give us clarity as a church on where we're headed and what we want to accomplish. It's this: the story of the Bible broken down with the garden blessed, the garden broken, and the garden becoming a new flourishing garden city. Now, the story is pretty cool because it starts off not with a garden and a world messed up, horrible, and awful, and irredeemable. No, this story starts off with a God who creates by his word. And when he speaks, that which he imagines, that's which he sees becomes reality. And the created world happens, and God makes everything in it in this moving and beautiful and like miraculous world. The fact that we're breathing, the fact that, our planet is where it is in relation to the sun, and all the things that make for life, this God created and said it was good. And he blessed it. He gave it his favor. And then we go a little bit in the story and things start to fall apart. There's choices that are made that cause humanity to kind of cause a rupture between themselves and God. And then that starts to ripple out into the creation, into the created world. And you see, in the story of Genesis, like personal selfishness starts being seen very clearly, and then that not only individual selfishness, but that extends into larger communities, and like there's ugliness and unfairness and injustice and all kinds of things start happening as things go wrong, and then human beings who are made in God's image and blessed and given this job to steward creation start exploiting it and exploiting each other, and so the garden is broken. Sometimes I've been in, religious circles where the story starts with the garden broken, but that's not the story. The story starts with the garden being good, that everything's a gift. And so when it's broken, there's a tragic side to it. But in the scriptures, we see like that God is working in the midst of the messy world we live in the garden broken. Even at the very moment it was broken, he's at work trying to put things right. And then in the person of Jesus, God so loved this messy, broken world that he gave his son to put it right, to bring it back to flourishing, bring it back to what it was, and make it better than it was. And so in the third chapter of the story, Jesus is beginning and inaugurating this moment where the garden is being restored. And the garden is going to be made more than just a garden. It's going to become a flourishing garden city where humans dwell with one another, and there's a harmony. There's like a peace, a shalom, a rightness between them and others, and them and creation, and themselves, and then with God. And this is the journey we're trying to work toward. And we're in the messy middle, and we live in a world where it's so easy to see the broken garden, the messed up garden, and you just look out of the world, and sometimes you don't even have to train your eyes, you just see it. And the beautiful thing about Jesus, not only did he do the work of healing and helping and changing and transforming and cultivating goodness, he trained his followers to see the beauty and the goodness and the truth and the wonder around them and begin cultivating it, to hold tension that there is brokenness, but there's also God's goodness at work. And this is the story we want to live into. This is where we get our name, Garden City, that like there's this idea of the organic and the organized coming together. And I love this verse in Jeremiah. It says, "Work for the flourishing of the city I have sent you to. Pray to the Lord for that city. If it flourishes, you too will flourish." This was written to exiles. This is a group of Jewish people who were displaced from their home by the Babylonians. They were brought into a place and a culture they didn't want to be, with people who worship gods that they didn't worship, who had values that they didn't value, and they just wanted out. And more than that, they wanted God to win, make them the winners. And there was all the prayers during those times are like, when are we going to be the winners, and when are you going to make them the losers? Because we're tired of being the losers. We're tired of being the ones that are crushed under this. God, when are you going to smite them? Just that collective, like, this isn't right. And God gives them a word that is so surprising. I think there's probably like a hope that we're like a word from God that this is the date I will make them the losers and you the winners. But here's what God says. This is the message God gives through Jeremiah. He says, work for the flourishing of the city, not that you're stuck in, but the city that I have sent you to. Pray to the Lord for that city. If it flourishes, you too will flourish. And I think that some of these ancient images we have are are images that help us in our world today. Do we live in a world that, oh, it feels broken. Oh, I disagree with this. I don't like that. That hurts. This just is killing me. Or I just don't know what to do right now. I'm feeling all this anxiety. And in that world, God looks at our world, and John 3:16 does not say, for God so hated the world or condemned the world. It says, for God so loved that world. For God so loved Tacoma. For God so loved Puyallup. For God so loved your community that he sent his son to put it right, and to lead us into blessing all of those around us, because when they flourish, we flourish, and we're learning to follow the God who helps us flourish, who helps us live into shalom. So we learn to love those who are different or dislike us or we disagree with. And maybe in many ways the world would look and say, you're natural enemies. But Jesus followers, we follow this, which is to seek the good for everybody. It's not always easy, is it? We have a God who wants to reconcile the world. I was at this event. It was a unity walk, and it was put on by the Chinese Reconciliation Foundation. Some of you have been to it, and I didn't know anything about this history. I've mentioned it before, but I didn't know this 2 years ago. In 1885, I believe, there was this thing called the Expulsion Act, and the Chinese community that was in Tacoma was expelled. And that were taken from their homes and marched to a train station like at night, or dispersed to find a way out, but they couldn't be in the city, and they expelled them. And there was someone who just, it was in the 90s, who noticed, they were like, why isn't there a Chinatown? There just seems to be kind of a weird spirit happening. What's the history? And they studied it, and they were like, whoa, this happened. And so this foundation came together not to condemn people, but to remember some of the scars and the wounds so that we could choose a different and better future together. To remind ourselves that sometimes, just like that story of the garden broken, humanity can lean into that brokenness, or we can learn to lean into the goodness and the flourishing of God. And this unity walk, it's really powerful because it starts at the train station, and then you walk back toward the community that they were originally expelled from. So it's like reversing this ugliness. And I remember we were gathered, and then someone came up to me, and they're like, hey, Pastor George, do you want to pray for us before we start? And I mean, this is a whole group of people who believe totally different things. Some people aren't at all into any kind of faith. There's other types of faith. And I wasn't like prepared, and they were like, hey, you want to pray? And I'm like, well, I guess I'm a pastor, so I probably should. This is what came to me in that moment. And I just shared this. I just said something like, in my tradition, in the Jesus tradition, one of the key central teachings Jesus had was about peacemaking. And he said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. I see a lot of peacemakers here right now, a lot of people desiring unity and reconciliation, and not like a fake or false or, pretend or easy peace, but something that matters. And we're all from different places, different spaces, but the Jesus tradition that I come from teaches that we want to encourage and build bridges with other peacemakers. So let me pray for peace and unity. And then we prayed. And I mean, there was just such resonance in that moment. And it reminded me that when I look at the world, I think the world is aching for the love of God. I think that there's a deep longing in people to move away from the broken garden and toward the garden becoming new and flourishing. And whether we know it or not, there is a source, a giver of all life, in the great reconciler who sent his son to reconcile all things. That's what I think humans have in their heart that we deeply long for. I mean, even here on this Father's Day, maybe that your family has some ruptures And it's a good Father's Day or it's an okay Father's Day, or maybe there's a little tension. But when we look back on our history, or maybe even now, there's tensions, and Jesus came to reconcile that stuff, to help us live a flourishing life, or a life shaped like Jesus. And at Garden City, our goal is to help people join Jesus on a journey toward personal and cultural flourishing, personal and cultural wholeness. And that's not easy. Have you ever tried to make peace with somebody? That's hard. Two minds, two different perspectives. Like sometimes there's major barriers, sometimes there's major wrongs. We live in a world that's ruptured and very divided even these days, very anxious these days. And our goal as a church in that reality, in that like how difficult that is to pursue that path of flourishing and peace. And for us, there's three essentials that we come back to over and over because we see it in the life of Jesus. We've just put language on it that makes sense to us, but it's a Jesus pattern. We think that the journey for us that we focus on is belonging, believing, and learning to be love. And that belonging and that believing and that love is shaped like something that's shaped like Jesus. So for our actions, we say it's belonging, but it doesn't look or smell like Jesus. We need to maybe reevaluate it. I think this is so important. And what I want to talk about today is belonging. I want to just talk about how important that is to us. I want to celebrate where we're seeing belonging in our church, and then I want to give a little challenge. So belonging for us, how many of you have heard us say that you can belong before you? All right, we're starting to get it. We come back to that all the time because, vision kind of drifts, and sometimes our values leak. It can be easy to say something but not embody it. And for us, belonging before belief comes from this idea that we are a Jesus-centered community. And in religious communities especially, there's two ways to form community. Like you can form yourselves around the question of who's in and who's out, which is a community that is wall-shaped. It's about building religious walls. And we got to maintain the walls. We got to build walls. We got to build more walls. So there can be all these walls that get put up. And it can be doctrines. It can be cultural. It can be expectations. But the wall building and maintenance, which requires a lot of energy and resources, it primarily creates a culture where we become kind of like the gatekeepers, the security guards, or the bouncers. Like our job is to define who gets in and who stays out, and we got to keep this place pure. We got to keep those people out, and so it focuses on who's worthy and not worthy, who's in, who's out, who's bad, who's good, and Jesus. When I look at Jesus and I read Jesus, I see that more in the Pharisees that pushed against him than I do in Jesus. I see when I look at him something that's different. We call it we want to dig wells, not build walls. And when you dig wells, you're not asking who's in or who's out. You're asking who's moving toward the well. And then your job changes. Rather than being like a gatekeeper to primarily keep, who's in, who's out, and keep things the way they should be, our job becomes finding and loving and helping people move toward the well. And for us, that's Jesus. He's at the center. His grace, his goodness, his courage, his beauty, the challenge of following Jesus. And this is challenging. This isn't easy. It's not natural to want to look at somebody who disagrees or thinks something different than you and want to put them in another box, want to keep them outside the walls. But I see Jesus tearing down a lot of walls and reconciling and bringing people to the Father's heart. Amen? And so this means you can belong before you believe. The wall building stuff, you have to believe and behave to belong. But we don't want to live that way here. The vision here is this Jesus-centered, well-shaped community. Amen? And I'll just illustrate it with this, and I want to celebrate a few things. But I recently did a celebration of life for a friend. And when I was helping facilitate, I looked out, and there were so many different faces from different seasons of life that were there to celebrate the life of my friend's wife who had passed. And I saw, and people were there from work and from, Bible study and from churches from the past and life, and there was family and there was sharing, and it was so kind and loving. And this friend, one of the things they said was like, hey, I'm in a community that we dig wells, we don't build walls. And he just recognized, he's like, even if you don't believe what, we do, we're so glad you're here. He was saying like, the grace of Jesus is for everybody. And it was such a wonderful moment. And then I also noticed how open his heart was. He had a community group. He's been part of a community group in our church, and he was so vulnerable and open with what he was going through. And they had walked, when they found out about the cancer, he and his wife had walked with that group through the cancer, through the hardship, and then through the loss, and now through the celebration of life, and all the grief and all the things. And he was just so open-hearted, and his wife had been so open-hearted through the whole thing. And his group, they were all there serving and helping and lifting, and through the whole process, they were serving and helping and lifting. And I mean, if you've been through something like this, you know what that means. And to me, that's belonging. That's love. Like, that's caring for one another. We want to be a church that embodies that. My friend was teaching me about belonging that day. And his loved one was teaching me beyond the grave about belonging that day. I had another friend recently, fairly new to our community. We were talking, and there was somebody who doesn't go to our community, but they were all of a sudden like, you know what, I need to go to church. But I'm kind of rough, but I know I should probably go. And this friend who's new to our community was like, hey, if they let my weird butt in here, they'll let you in here. And just like sizing him up, I haven't noticed anything weird about his butt. I think he was talking about his personality. Just to be clear. And I love it because he's saying like, we're all like have quirks and things, and we're not always going to agree, but a Jesus-centered community, we can hold different convictions and have different backgrounds, and we can let go of secondary and third issues that people divide and fight over, and we can just center on him. We can learn from each other. We can serve each other, even if we don't agree. And we can honor and lift each other up in a world that doesn't make sense, does it? But in the economy of Jesus, this is the way that we are called to be in the world. And that means that you and I can be in the same room together. And when I look at Jesus, like when we center on him, he calms the storms going on around us. When we center on him, we learn to stand with the prodigal father looking for lost sons who have gone awry. We can stand with Jesus in Matthew's house with a room divided from the religious and the sinners, and we're all invited to the table. That's what belonging is, according to Jesus. And that's what we want to pursue. We want to continue pursuing a Jesus-centered approach with our picnics, with our children's discipleship happening downstairs, with our big, church, big folks church. Not that you're all big, but you're bigger than the kids. That's what we want to pursue. And to continue that, we want to continue radical hospitality, invitation, inclusion, not exclusion. We're trying to bring people toward Jesus. And do lots of parties. Lots of parties. Can I celebrate some of the ways we're seeing this belonging happen in our church? Here's some of the cool things. Check this out. We've been growing since we moved out here in Tacoma. Like, we were seeing just a burst of growth. We've grown year over year at 15%. So there's new faces, new people, new families. That's a sign of belonging. Both middle school and elementary have continued to grow. We've got incredible leaders that are like parents and people who have partnered together, creating an incredible environment for our kids. And thank you. And then we've seen baptisms and transformation. We just did our first baptism. We had 11 folks. We're going to celebrate a little bit more about that next week. But I have to mention just transformations happening in adults and kids. And you're a part of that. Thank you for being part of that. Here's another cool thing. Check this out. St. Leo's, we're creating belonging in our larger community. The last Saturday of every month, we have this volunteer time to serve folks who need food, who need dignity. And we're living in a time where we've never had a higher need for food or dignity for folks. And this is a great place that was doing this work, and they need volunteers. And we're like, let's partner with what God is already doing. We don't have to invent things on our own. Let's partner with it. So they provide food assistance to individuals and families all around Pierce County. And if you haven't checked that out, come check it out, because we need more volunteers. Like, they need it, and our area needs it. You can do this with your kids. Here's another cool thing. We've always wanted our own building so that we could use it to bless the community. When we didn't have a building, especially through COVID, it killed me to see how many churches were just standing alone, unused. And now we have a building now, and we can use it and let other people use it that need it. So recently we had a graduation celebration, and there were kids in the foster care community that came here to be celebrated and loved for graduating high school. And it was so special. It was powerful in two ways. One kind of caused a heartache. One caused my heart to jump. The first thing was Olive Crest looks for churches that don't look like churches. We don't look like a church. This is like an old, American Legion Hall. So that works. And then they're looking for buildings that have good public transit. Well, we've got the rail out here, and there's bus lines, and it's a place kids can get to. Because this was the heartache. A lot of those kids that made it here didn't have any adult figure with them. They came to a graduation celebration alone, I walked in, and there was a kid that was just walking on the sidewalk with cat ears or some kind of regalia. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this is one of the kids. And it was. I walked in, and I kind of got to experience what it was like for this kid walking in alone to their own graduation. And then all the social workers and volunteers who care and love them, just running up and hugging and embracing and celebrating. It was so special. That's what we want this building to be used for, stuff like that. And now we're talking with them about potentially doing life skill classes for foster care kids through our building. It's just incredible. Thank you for making that happen. We're creating belonging through brick and mortar. Not Morty, he doesn't go here. Yeah, that's good. The Christmas party that we throw for 400 kids and their foster care families, all that happens because of the heartbeat here, the heart to create belonging. Let's go to the next one. Check this out. Discipleship. We've had 31 people since we came to this building go through our discipleship pathway. If you haven't been, you should go through. It's awesome. We go into all the Jesus-centered, cool, fun theology and practice, and it's very relational, but it's just so cool. After our last one, we had all these baptisms. It's just amazing what God is doing. And ministries are growing. You can see that's our kids area. That's all the leaders that are meeting for that. It's just building. We've got great leaders, and we're not perfect, but we're growing and we're developing, and I'm just so grateful. Check this out. This is another thing I wanted to celebrate when it comes to belonging. We had a big building campaign last year, and we raised funds. It was unbelievable, the funding that came in to repair and get this place ready. We've been able recently in the second phase to put in an ADA ramp over here. You probably saw it. We're waiting on the rails, but those will come hopefully soon. We've got an ADA bathroom that just got done. It's got light, it's got everything, and it's on the first floor, which is what we needed. We're getting it. I'm so pumped. And bathrooms, it's nice. I like nice bathrooms. It makes a difference. It makes you feel a little bit. I don't know. A bad bathroom doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy. And then check this out. Look at the frontage. Look at the difference. We took down pillars that were from the 90s. They weren't original to the building. And then this is before it was pressure washed. Look at the difference. As we're restoring this building, we're restoring trust and a place of belonging in this community and for this community. The next picture is pretty cool too. Here's the bathroom. Again, this makes me feel warm and fuzzy. That's much better, right? That's awesome. Like this is happening because of your generosity. Look at the next one here. That was the old stage. The new stage now has a capacity to put chairs under it for storage. And there's somebody who designed it and people who built it. And all these hands came together. And now we're worshiping together in this room. Now look at this. The one sad thing that happened was that the pink carpet had to go. It's gonzo. But now we're worshiping in this place together, like it's so special. Is there another picture? Yeah. That was in, I believe, the 60s for a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. It was like a big dinner for kids that didn't have a place to go. So there was like hundreds of kids pouring out. And then just think, for years now, it's had like some literary documents in it, but not been serving the community other than that. And now it's a place where we can serve our church and our community. Amen. So these are powerful things. And a lot of good is happening. And I just feel like such spiritual momentum and so many things to celebrate. But I did want to bring, when we're a family, we celebrate all the good, but we also want to be honest about some of the challenges. And so I wanted to bring one challenge to you. While all the ministries are thriving right now and we've got momentum and we're excited about the future, we are facing a 30% gap in our budget right now. And before going into summer, we wanted to get on that quickly and just lay it before you as a church family. We have about 6 months to just reverse that trend. And our budget goes toward our mortgage. It goes toward community outreach, digital resources for discipleship. How many of you guys found our church online before you came here? Okay, that's a good amount. We have a lot of our resources on there. It goes towards staff wages. And, in the last 3 years, we've been pushing and we made a big change moving from worshiping in Puyallup, now worshiping here. There's a lot of change we've been through, and we've had a staff just buckle down and work so hard. And we wish we could, but we haven't been able to have like a significant raise for our staff for about 3 years. And then our normal weekly ministries are happening every week. So this is what the budget goes toward. And we, again, had a big year last year with like raising funds for the building campaign and just like blown away by that. But we wanted to address this dip early. The last thing we want to do during an exciting time of spiritual momentum is cut the budget. So we wanted to lay this before you. And to me, it's kind of like it's a growing up, moment in the life of our church. So many good things are happening, and the church is a lot like a family. It's a very diverse and funky family sometimes, but as a family, I don't know if you've ever saved, you've been renting, and then you got your own home you owned, or maybe you're in that process of renting and you want to save up to own someday. We were renting for years, and then we just recently got this new building, and so there's new things that come along with that, and new, ways of stewarding as a family. So this is, to me, an opportunity and a challenge to steward well what God has given us together. Our staff is working really hard to bring in, or set this up to bring in multiple revenues to steward the building well, in the sense that this can be an event center. We can do concerts here. We can have weddings. We've already been getting requests to do weddings here. So we're working to get that up and running, to steward it well. We've got people working diligently on that. And I just think if we are to, as a church, could just turn up in this time, and I know we live in challenging times, but that faucet of generosity together, it's not like something one person can do, but together, I think we can rise up and just continue to see our now and our future flourish. And that's really the goal. And that's why we're wanting to get this in front of you. But really also celebrate, look what God has done, and look what God is doing. And I believe God's going to just continue to do incredible things through our church. I wanted to draw your attention to this. I want to invite you to, over the next 3 weeks, to pray and think. Just think and pray. Maybe gather your people. If you're single, just pray and think. Talk with the Lord about this. If you're got a family, you got a husband or wife, pray about this together. an annual pledge. This is an annual pledge, just to consider a goal to commit toward, a goal that like maybe turns up generosity a little bit. Now, there's been folks who have been heroic in their generosity. It's just blown me away. But there's also areas in our church where we could probably grow and turn it up. And for those of us who have means, I really want you to consider and just talk with the Lord, and if something's laid on your heart, to just commit to that goal. This pledge, from my perspective, there's folks who give 10%, like, which is Christians call a tithe. That might sound like, whoa, a lot for you, but there's people who tithe, and it's like an amazing, faithful, consistent way our church thrives. There's folks that just pick a percentage. They're like, I'm not at the 10%, but I pick a percentage. I go God first, and then that's what they give. Others are like, they're not there yet, but they're like, I give this amount. I've just committed to this amount this year. And some people give weekly, monthly, or they do what's a way they can do it, because everybody's lives are a little differently. Again, this is between you and the Lord. I just want to encourage you to pray about it, think about it, and then commit to it, and see what God does. Because I think God can, in an issue like this where we're just facing in mid-year as a church, this is something that I think God can do some incredible things in the life of our church and continue working in us. So I want you to consider this, and you could turn it into the box over there today if you wanted to, or think about it for a few weeks. On the third 3 Sundays from now, we're going to take time to pray about it. But between now and then, you can just slip it in the box if you want. And that'd be awesome. There's 3 ways to give. You can give by mail, just mail in a check. You can put a check in that box, in the generosity box, or probably the best and easiest is our online. And on the back of this, that'll take you to our online function. So I want to just encourage you to be praying about this. I love this church. I'm so grateful to be part of a church like this. And I think this is a unique church, especially in our world right now that's so divided. We focus on digging wells, not building walls. We're less interested in culture wars and religious wall building, and we're much more interested and invested in digging wells, serving people, and following Jesus. Just keeping it that simple. And I want to thank you for being on the journey. I want to invite you toward that. You might even be new today. This isn't like how every service is, but I'm glad you're here. You get to know the heartbeat, and I think with just this summer and with all that God's doing, if we just turn up the heat with generosity collectively, we'll not only close that gap, but we'll be like healthy and flourishing and continue to make the impact God's called us to make. So as you prayerfully consider your just annual pledge, I think this verse is really helpful. In 2 Corinthians 9:7, it says, you must each decide in your own heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure, for God loves a person who gives cheerfully. This is a personal thing between you and the Lord, and not a pressure thing. This is something that God calls us to out of joy, not out of something we have to. So just take that word with you as you consider this. We're going to worship now. Let me just pray. Jesus, we love you. We just glorify, we magnify you. Thank you that you are at work in our church. You are doing all this. And you're Lord, we get the joy of participating in all this. We get to join, we get to partner, we get to be part of it. And we're so grateful. God, I love this church. Shape us into the likeness of Christ. In Jesus' name, amen.
The resurrection that we've waited for, buried the night, came with the morning. You're the King of heaven, the praise is yours. The longer the quiet, the louder the chorus. He's dead and gone with the winter. We will sing a new song, let hallelujahs flow like a river, coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. You're the living water, God, we thirst for you. The dry and the barren, the flower and bloom. You're the sun that's shining, you restore my soul. The deeper you call us, well, the deeper we'll go. We will sing a new song. He's dead and gone with the winter. We will sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime. Like springtime. Come tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul. And like a garden, and like a garden I will grow. Yes, I will grow. Tend the soil, come tend the soil of my soul. And like a garden, and like a garden I will grow. So I will grow. Yes, I will grow. I will grow. We will sing a new song. He's dead and gone with the winter. We will sing a new song. Let hallelujahs flow like a river. We're coming back to life, reaching towards the light. Your love is like springtime, like springtime, like springtime, like springtime.